In this video, I want to talk about how evil came into the good God, how evil was found in God. Some people will say, what are you saying? God is good. There is no evil in God. I want you to stay tuned and watch this video till the end. Now, if you look at the concept of good and evil in religion, you discover that it's a very complicated and mysterious concept that is very questionable, and a lot of people that don't believe in any religion, they always question this concept. Like, if you look at one of my previous video, which is part of the reason that inspired this particular video I'm doing now, someone commented, he said, why did God allow cancer? He said he's a good God. Why did God allow evil and terrible things to be happening in the world? So how can all good God allow such kind of thing to happen, as you're seeing it on the screen? So this video is mainly dedicated to kind of try to answer the question, not only trying to answer the question, but also to to throw more light on the concept of good and evil in such a way that a lot of people have not yet heard about. So I'm going to start with a story. The story is about a mother that has a 1-year-old kid with the husband. So this mom has a certificate, like a school certificate that she uses to work for government. This certificate was kept in a place that the woman forgot that she kept it. So the story has two metrics. In the first metric, or in the first trajectory that the story could have gone, the woman was looking all over the room, looking out for where she kept the credential one morning to present in their workplace as an asset for promotion. She looked for it, she couldn't find it. At the verge of giving up, the husband suddenly came out and saw it kept under the table somewhere, not on the shelf, but under the table where she could have not found it. It was kept a little bit careless, where the 1-year-old kid could have seen it and played with it. The husband picked it up and gave it to her. She was very happy and she left excited with the certificate. That is how the first story ended. But the second one ended like this. As the mom was looking for the certificate, she gave up and she received a call from their office that she can come today, then present the certificate tomorrow. The mom left and went to work in anticipation to come back later in the day and look for it very carefully. But as she went for work, the 1-year-old kid didn't go to school. He was at home playing. You know how little children play. She was drinking water. She poured water on inside the cup, and about to drink the water, the water mistakenly fell from her hand and poured on the certificate of the mom. And the little child don't know what that paper represents, thinking that it's just an ordinary paper. So wanted to pick it up, and when she picked it up, she didn't pick it up very carefully. The paper tore to shreds. And at the point of that occurrence, door opened and the woman came in suddenly and asked her what she was doing. She said that she told the mom that water fell from her hand and poured on the ground. So the mom just told her, okay, what are you holding on your hand? Is it your sketchbook that you poured on? She said no. He showed the mom a part of the certificate that tore, and it was the mom's certificate. Now the second story made the mom to be very furious with the child. He beat the child very well, and was very angry. So that's how the second story went. So in these two stories that you just had, you discover that it's like an analogy of good and evil. How many people were in the story? The lady in question is good. There is nothing wrong with the lady. There is nothing wrong with the certificate. the certificate is okay. There is nothing wrong with the husband. There is nothing wrong with water that poured on the pepper that turned to shreds. There's nothing wrong with the child. Everything is good. Or is water bad? Water is not bad because it poured on the certificate. Water is good. Water has good benefits. But where does the issue of good and bad arise? The first point where good and evil arise is when there is an observer that wants a particular thing to keep on remaining in a certain framework. I repeat again, the concept of good and evil, in fact, the concept of good is once a particular observer wants a particular thing to keep on remaining in a particular frame or trajectory. In the story, in the analogy, everyone, like the mom that has the certificate, wants the certificate to keep on remaining intact. He doesn't want any other thing apart from that certificate remaining intact and in the same trajectory or the same way that it could be presented. It doesn't want any other thing to interact with it. So once water is poured on the certificate, that water or the thing that caused the water to pour on the certificate becomes automatically evil because it has disrupted the natural frame that particular body is supposed to maintain. So the concept of evil is like introduction of entropy. Entropy means, like in physics, is like to a layman, describing it to a layman is like introduction of chaos to order. That means every body or every particular frame is supposed to remain in itself or is supposed to remain in its own frame, but once it is disrupted by an external force, it automatically becomes evil. In the frame, in the concept of God and good and evil, the best way to understand it is that there are frames of every level of creation has a way it was made to keep being in a certain frame and to keep being regulated by a certain principle within itself. But once an external force comes and causes chaos or causes disruption to its natural way of flow, it becomes evil. Now, how do we trace this thing in book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1? If you read down the book of Genesis, which is a very wonderful parable or story to illustrate the concept of good and evil, or to illustrate the introduction of evil in a good world or in a good God, because everything should be blamed back to God. Now, the introduction of evil in a good God, first of all, it showed us a picture of the creation story where God created everything and said that everything is good. Everything representing its own principle, its own frame is good. Everything in its own trajectory, everything in its own frequency is good. So that we know that everything was created to maintain a particular type of frequency with the possibility of going into other frequencies and disrupting it. There's possibility, and we are going to get there soon. Now, when God created everything, He now made man and told man to look over a garden of Eden, and kept man in a garden of Eden. And then in that garden, there are other trees, there are other things, wonderful things there. But there is this particular tree that God told man not to eat of that tree, which is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that he should not eat of that tree. And He told man the consequences of eating of that tree. Now follow me very closely. What is the consequence of eating of that tree? He said, the day you eat of that tree, you shall die. You will die. And eons, because you can't contemplate how long it took before man ate of that tree, because until they ate of that tree, we didn't know what, because once a body keep on remaining at rest or in uniform motion, even physics said it, Newtonian physics was talking about a body keeping on remaining at rest. So once a body kept on remaining at rest, it cannot be measured. So Adam and Eve are in the garden for a very long time, an innumerable time. You can't even like a very long time, until entropy came, until chaos came. And how did chaos come in? Now follow very closely in this analogy. Now said that there was a serpent in the garden, and that serpent is wise, is crafty. Now that serpent has the tendency, the ability to be wise means the tendency to have access to external force. He said that serpent has wisdom. That every wisdom has an external force, an external information that was beyond the garden. Now when he came to the woman. After this video, I'm going to be talking about the role male and female play. So, but that is beyond the scope of this video. We are talking about how evil came into good God. Now, that serpent itself is not evil. Remember, everything God made is good, including the serpent. Now, it is in the place that tree, even that tree of good and knowledge of good and evil is a good tree, because everything God made must have a point that can be able to introduce entropy. Follow me very closely. If you are not following me very closely, you will miss it. Everything that God made must have a point that it can introduce entropy. Entropy means chaos or disruption of order. Everything that was made always have this point where if you trigger it, it will disrupt the orderliness within an ecosystem. So, and that disruption of orderliness can give birth to another new creation. Follow me very closely. The disruption of orderliness gives birth to another new creation, because when orderliness in an ecosystem is disrupted, it means that that ecosystem is interacting with another ecosystem that will give birth to another kind of thing that is beyond the knowledge of the two ecosystems that are reacting together. If you are following me very closely, you are going to see another big mystery. Now, let me take you back a little bit. In Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, there was a way the creation story was introduced. It said, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and there was chaos. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. There is void and something like chaos, and the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. Now, it means that in the midst of entropy, in the midst of chaos, anytime I say entropy, have it at the back of your mind that I'm talking about chaos or disorder. And that disorder is what people always see as evil. In the midst of evil or chaos or disorder or entropy, there is another thing that will be born, another type of light that will be born, another new dimension that will be born. Just follow me. That's why I'm taking you back. Now, there is a tree of knowledge of good and evil. God now told Adam and Eve, if you love this trajectory, if you love this ecosystem, if you like how it is that you are maintaining this ecosystem and you are enjoying it, as long as you did not trigger this tree, you will not die. But if you trigger it, if you activate this tree, you will die. And what is the meaning of death? Entropy. Because death means losing of the frame, of a certain frame of being. Now, when the serpent came, that serpent, anything God made is good. When the serpent came, he told Eve, didn't God tell you that the time you eat of this tree, you shall die? Follow me very closely. I'm going to say so many things that people are going to begin to contradict or say that I'm blaspheming. But if you go deeper into these things, you know. So now, the serpent is good. There's nothing God made that is bad. Everything God made is good. It now told Eve that if you eat of this tree, you will not die. You will be like God. Are you getting the twist now? What is the meaning of being like God? You are going to evolve from here. You are going to become more than this. And so what played out? Once Eve ate it, Eve's eye was open, and Eve realized that they were naked. Realizing that they were naked means that there was a realization of chaos. There was a realization that things were no longer one. Because once they realized, they said after they realized they were naked, they discovered that they are separate. That means they started hiding from themselves, that they are separate, they are no longer one. They became separate. They triggered something that made them to begin to think of themselves separate from the garden, separate from one another. And that separation gave birth to entropy, because once there is consciousness of individuality, things become separate. And once things become separate, there begins to be a need to defend themselves from themselves. If you're getting what I'm saying, their individuality, and once they saw their individuality, they started defending themselves from themselves. They became something that was one, unified in harmony, started seeing differences and variations in such a way that will make every one individual begin to protect his self-interest. That was what happened, and it gave birth to entropy, because once every individual starts separating, that is the rise of entropy, and that is the rise of chaos. So everything started working like in friction instead of in harmony. There is no longer the network, there is no longer the bed of harmony. There was a flip of chaos. So it continued till they were banished from the garden, because they have failed to keep the harmony going. They have failed to keep the harmony going. So now, from this analogy, we discover that there is nothing made by God. Some people are giving me an example in my video. They say that God is all-knowing and He made cancer. If you zoom it very well into the microscopic view, cancers are just cells that are carelessly growing where they are not meant to grow. That's why it's called cancer. They are growing where they are not supposed to grow. They are forming organ that they are not supposed to form. That's why they are called cancer. And again, that is the function of cells. Most cells always like generate organs, and like if you have an injury and a cell grows where it's supposed to grow, it becomes healing. It becomes healing to the body. But if a cell begins to generate where it's not supposed to generate, it becomes cancerous. So that's exactly how the concept of good and evil is. Evil is like cancer, like growing where it's not supposed to grow, where it's not meant to grow, thereby creating a certain kind of entropy, thereby creating chaos for a certain orderliness. So, and that is even what happened. Even further reading into the book of Genesis, discovered that as time went on, angels of God came down and had intercourse with daughters of men. Angels of God that were kept up there as watchers. Watchers means they are not supposed to be like doing anything with the daughters of men. They are supposed to remain in their own frequency. So immediately they left their own frequency and came to mingle with the daughters of men, which is not part of the original thing they were meant to be. They are meant to remain in harmony in their own ecosystem, and men are supposed to remain in harmony in their immense own ecosystem. But all these things were disrupted because of the agreement between the two frequencies. Because before this frequency and this frequency will disrupt each other and create another kind of chaos, it must first agree. There must be an agreement. There must be a portal of infiltration. That portal of infiltration in Genesis chapter 1 is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That portal of infiltration is also the daughters of men that Bible also talked about in Genesis, where these beings came down and had something to do with daughters of men and invaded them, thereby giving birth to giants, the Nephilims and mighty men of old, those monsters that later turned out to become demons. So you see that most of these things is not that the Almighty God is evil, but He has made all principles to remain in harmony, or invade into or infiltrate. This thing is also can also be observed in our scientific laboratory. There are some chemical. If you keep, let's say, sodium chloride and another chemical, let's say sodium chloride. Okay, if you keep, let's say, an acid and a base separately, there won't be any reaction. They will just keep on being where they are until you pour them together. It will react. There will be there are some that will be very catastrophic, and it will give birth to maybe a salt solution, and so many things will go on. So it's even very well seen in our physics that bodies will keep on remaining where they are in their peaceful harmony in their own ecosystem, except being disrupted. So the thing called evil is when harmony is being disrupted by the agreement of two different forces. So in the case of cancer, there are food that you begin to eat. You begin to give your body, your DNA, some kind of information to entangle, or you begin to introduce to your body some kind of entanglement that will begin to make atoms to react in the places they are not supposed to react. So is the way evil is, the concept of evil. Not that even evil is evil or alien. That's in this analogy you discover that evil is not actually alien. Evil should happen. Evil could happen because evil is as a result of disruption of harmony by two different frequencies that we are not supposed to align, but they came together and then they gave birth to an explosive catastrophe. So that's what I want to share with you guys. I hope you learned something from this brief analogy. If there's anything you want to add or more questions that you want to ask based on what I've said, the floor is open, comment section is open. I would like us to make this thing more interactive and wonderful. Thanks for watching.